Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Let's Get Some Perspective, presented by, sponsored by, powered by the Black Psychologist Network, where we discuss all things mental health and trending topics going on in the world. I am one half of your humble and gracious host, Dr. Kyle Osborne. He is I, and I am him. And of course, you all know I'm not flying this aircraft by myself. I'm here with the one and only, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. My friend, my brother, Dr. Jason Coleman. What's going on, good brother?
Going on, bro? How's it going down there in Philly today, man?
Not bad, man. It seems like the weather doesn't know how to make up its mind. One minute it's a downpour, the next minute we got humid heat. So I'm just really confused on how to dress for today. But other than that, I'm chilling. What's up with you?
Now, I think we got the same type of weather up here, man. Like literally
Yeah.
thunderstorms, and then later on in the day, it's good enough weather to go outside and walk around, hike, whatever you want to do. So it's crazy, but I don't know. It's just crazy that it's June and it's still doing that. I would have understood if it was April. But other than that, I'm good, man. Just getting ready for Hump Day
Okay.
tomorrow. That's it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jake, definitely getting through it. Speaking of which, it is the month of June, and I'd be remiss, of course, if we didn't highlight that it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So we absolutely want to continue to highlight and encourage everyone out there to please check on your brothers, your fathers, your uncles, your cousins, your sons, your friends. Definitely continue to check on them and encourage them to to speak out, to be more comfortable talking about what's going on in their life. A lot of times we kind of get caught up in the day to day responsibilities. We tend to use these stock answers, and men's mental health suffers in the meanwhile, right? And we just continue to kind of suffer in silence. And so, definitely want to make sure that everyone is continuing to highlight and encourage, and have start up a conversation. Start up a conversation with your the male figures in your life. It's unfortunate that there's men are suffering, especially with mental health. I think some stats just to kind of throw out there, men are four times more likely to unfortunately commit suicide. There are 30% of men have experienced depression at some point in their lifetime, and men also have a higher prevalence of misusing addiction. I mean, as far as like drinking and drugs. So please make sure that you're out there and you're checking up on your brothers, your friends, your uncles, your dads, all the male figures in your life. You know.
All right, I definitely agree. I mean, I think you covered it. I'm not going to pile on too much, but definitely check on the people, the males in your life, especially the ones that support you. The ones that seem like they got it all together. All of those people kind of need support, right? So we're going to talk about that. We'll revisit it a little bit later. Um, so I'll add a little bit more then, but definitely, check in on your brother, your father, your significant other.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, Jay, there is a trend that's on social media, some kind of going around for the past couple of weeks, and man, I couldn't wait to get your input on this. This is one of the funniest things that I've seen for a while. So let me get this set up really quick. It's the men saying goodnight trend to other men. All right, let me give a little quick little sample here. All right, here we go.
Yo, what's good, bro? What you got going?
I'm literally just trying to get this temperature stuff going on with Ken.
Oh,
Trying to bring her temperature down. Why was that?
no, I'll just call and tell you good night, bro. Sweet dreams. Hello?
What?
Hello?
Yeah, what do you mean, good night?
I'm about to lay down, bro. I'm about to get into bed. I just want to call and tell you good night, bro. Sweet dreams.
Yeah, but nigga, why the hell you call? Why are you telling me good night?
I hope you sleep tight, bro.
Nigga, what?
All right, bro. I'm gonna talk to you tomorrow, man. Sweet dreams.
What do you have going? What sweet drink, nigga? I'm a grown. What's going? Are you good?
Yeah, bro. I can't wish that you sleep good tonight, bro.
Nigga, when in the hell have you ever wished it? Why?
All right, bro. I'm gonna sleep tight, so I'm gonna holler at you. All right, bro. All right.
Nigga, don't call my phone doing this, man. What you mean you gonna sleep tight? Don't. You know what? Where's the red button on this? Hold on.
Yeah, yeah, man. So that's so yeah,
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of those going around, bro. Listen, first and foremost, this is one of the funniest trends that I've seen in a while, man. Like whoever came up with this idea, they knocked it out the park. This is a good joint. All right, Jay, when you saw this trend, what were some of your thoughts about it?
I mean, listen, I just thought it was. I think it's funny. Like I've seen other kind of skits that are talking about similar issues with men, like giving your boy a hug. When you usually might dap him up or whatever, give him a hug out of nowhere. I've seen that on video go, and it always goes left. But this is, again, I think this is funny. Of course, I was looking at like a bunch of videos like this, and I couldn't help but think like how would it play out if it was my friends or my homies and my bros that I known for a while. And I think it would probably play out similar to what the video we just saw, you know.
Yeah,
So but again, I think it serves two purposes, right? Like one is content, is funny, it's kind of showing people, a lighthearted side of, mental health or relationships and different things, interpersonal relationships. But, obviously the ultimate goal is to kind of highlight and kind of showcase vulnerability with males and that communication in terms of like, expressing your feelings with certain things. So, I think that I think it puts it out there in like a very creative way. You know what I mean? And if we being honest, like we do those things, we just have our own language for it. You know what I mean? Like we might say, "Yo, I get at you, bro," or, I holler at you. You know,
yeah,
and that and that's kind of our way of saying, peace. So you can replace it with good night, whatever you want. But sometimes bro, you might just say love. Like it's different. You go through different phases, especially when you talk about
yeah,
slang. People 10 years ago or what, it might have been 15. I don't know. In the 90s, people were saying one love to each other or whatever. Whatever
yeah,
people
yeah,
say. So,
yeah.
so yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I just think men kind of express it in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I think it's a very funny skit or trend. Um, it does highlight that the issue in regards to the vulnerability piece that you were speaking of. It does. I feel the language does play a role for the reason that um, it's uncommon for, and like, generally speaking, it's uncommon for men to talk to each other in that particular manner and using those particular words, right? Like you mentioned, like good night. You might say, "All right, peace, see you later." And at the same time, it's shocking when you get a phone call like that from your, what I mean, one of your bros, because that's typically not how we engage with one another, right? Like it's not a situation where we're not typically discussing things in that intimate fashion, because good night is an intimate sentiment, right? That you would say to like your girl, your partner, or like your kid or your mom or something. It's We reserve that for those particular individuals in our life. We don't particularly say, "All right, man, all right, good night." Like it's not. We don't typically use that particular term, but it's also not something that you just call out of the blue with, right? Like
Right.
typically, like you said,
Right.
you would get one of those type of reaction. Like I know if I call one of my guys, like I'm gonna get a similar reaction to that. For me, I was thinking if I get that call, like I'm immediately, and it might just be because of the way I'm trained, right? Is that I'm thinking that something's wrong, right? Like I'm thinking automatically, like, yo, you good? You cool? You all right? Like I'm
Right,
thinking
right.
like more type of like crises, type of. It's coming more from a place of a concern where you kind of saw the one that we showed. The masculinity aspect piece kind of kicked in, which made it even funnier. But again, it's because it's so foreign, right? Because we typically won't get a phone call like that unless something is wrong. You know what I mean?
And he
Like not just
knows
out the blue.
he know what he was doing. Like he's pushing his man's buttons when he's talking about, yeah, I'm gonna sleep tight. Like, come on, man. Like, he's
Sweet,
saying
sweet
things.
dreams.
You're right. So he's saying things purposely where he's gonna get a reaction, right? And again, I'm sure
Right.
you probably gone on vacation with your homies. You slept, over your homie's house or whatever. We do things in different ways. So it's like I'm thinking back as we talking, and I'm like, okay, me and my bros do that all the time, but we just use different words, right? So if like say we all going back
Right.
to our hotel rooms or we on vacation,
Yeah, it's more
we
like
not gonna say
all right, be
good
safe
night.
or something like that. Things
Everybody
like
gonna be
that.
like, be safe.
Yeah.
Next day,
Right.
they gonna say something like, all right, bro, whatever, and that's what you're gonna dap each other up and keep it moving. But like that's something like if you had like two women kind of with each other, they might say good night, girl, or whatever, and go their separate way.
Yeah.
But it's just I
Yeah.
think it's more
That's
of a trend, in terms of gender. Like we don't usually use that, those terms in that way. So that's why it's so shocking. But it's good content.
yeah, it is. I mean, again, it is something where it does prompt or activate that conversation of men overall having that conversation with each other. Yeah, maybe it is a cue where men not necessarily should be saying goodnight to each other, but maybe being more intimate in terms of kind of, not being so hypervigilant to like, all right, just the words goodnight. Because again, when you hear those particular words, you just like the alarms go off like what? Like goodnight, man. Don't call me with goodnight. Like, bro, like don't like that. Just don't say those words to me. Because
Yeah,
again, immediately like our masculinity kicks in. But it's just one of those things where it can spark a conversation about just the loneliness aspect where how often does friend or do guys call to check in each other, just hey brothers, you want to see how your night is going? Good night, right? Like we don't out of the blue make phone calls or check on each other in that manner. And I think that goes along with men's mental health awareness month, right? It is a situation where we should be checking in on each other more frequently. Not necessarily saying good night, but it should be a thing where we do kind of tap in with one another more frequently. Not only when it is something wrong, but I think that's more the message that overall it highlights, right? Or that we should be pulling from this particular type of content where it's like, yeah, no, we should be checking in with each other in a manner that we can, because typically, generally speaking, unless you're close with like your friend group, we don't talk in that manner, right? We don't talk, this kind of reserved for certain spaces, whether it be at the barbershop or you're out playing ball with somebody or whatever the case may be. That's typically where those vulnerable conversations tend to take place. So I do
right.
think that it is something overall we should be having more kind of check-ins with each other. That's kind of what I like at it, because a good night is a hey man, just checking, how's your night going? Everything cool. All right, be safe, good night. But it should be more check-in. I will say that.
No, I agree, man. Like, in general, like I said, we do things in our own way, but culturally, again, it would be beneficial if we had like a little bit of a shift towards more, of us supporting each other rather than always having to go to. You don't want to create a situation where you can only be vulnerable in front of your mom or your girl. You know what I mean? So, um,
Right.
we support each other for everything else. So why not?
There you go, that part. So yeah, but no, it's a good trend that activated some really good conversation. Something else that I saw. Jay, are you familiar with the actor Taye Diggs?
Yeah, yeah.
All
I had
right.
a
So
long
Taye
running beef
Diggs
with
of
Taye Diggs.
You got a long running beef with Tay? What Tay do to you, bro?
I
What happened?
did. I used to. I didn't like how he was moving in The Best Man. You know what I mean? I didn't like how he was moving, but it's all
Uh,
good. It's a long time
yeah,
ago.
that was flagrant. That was kind of flagrant. Yeah. And isn't it wild how you see dudes, the character just kind of stays with him? Like, yeah, you was wild on that movie.
You played the character too well. He played it too well. But I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
distract. But
yeah.
he's doing good things now. So let's talk about that.
Yes. All right. So yes. So actor Taye Diggs first learned that his sister had been diagnosed with schizophrenia as a young adult, and he said one of the biggest hurdles was understanding her condition. He said, for me, schizophrenia was, was just something that was portrayed in movies and on TV. So he went on to talk about his journey of supporting his sister or lack of thereof at one point and his complicated feelings. So he stated, right after her diagnosis, I was scared. I felt vulnerable. I pulled away. I didn't hang out with her socially as often as I would have liked to. I was just afraid. I didn't know how I would act. I didn't know how I would feel. And I didn't want people to judge her. He said, I had all of these very natural human feelings, but the more you learn, the better you get at being there in whatever way that they need. So during the course of him educating himself about the condition, Diggs is now using his platform to advocate for schizophrenia awareness. So, partnering with Bristol Myers Squibb, um, Diggs and his sister have spearheaded the Live Your Possible campaign. That is possible spelled POSSCZIBLE, and as a nod to schizophrenia. So he's been using they've spearheaded that campaign since May of last year to help elevate the voices of those living with schizophrenia. So in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month and World Schizophrenia Day, Diggs and his sister hosted a talent showcase in May in Los Angeles to help celebrate the schizophrenia community. And Diggs mentioned that the community and understanding are at the heart of the Live Your Possible campaign. He said when they're on that stage, they're not just people with a disorder, they're wonderful performers. And he said it's important not to pigeonhole folks. These are artists that just happen to be living with something that can be a little bit more difficult to deal with. So that was a good article, and I like this campaign. Individuals with schizophrenia are a large population of individuals that I work with, and that is next to medication compliance and talk therapy. Social support is the next most important thing in regards to the difference of an individual that has schizophrenia and regarding them having a healthy or high prognosis regarding their mental health recovery. There is so much misinformation and myths that are associated, unfortunately, with the schizophrenia community. And it's really important that family members learn how to support, like they educate themselves on how to support their family member or their friend, for the reason that when, it's bad enough that they're already kind of learning how to manage that condition, but schizophrenia can be a very reclusive condition just due to the nature of the positive and negative symptoms. And I tend to see that a lot of some of the patients that I work with that um, families are not a part of the picture, or they start to kind of recoil from them just during different episodes or when things take place. And a lot of it sometimes is like, and again, it's not easy to be a family member of a loved one that has schizophrenia, but also a huge part of it is just a lack of education. So to see him, be so proactive and so involved in his sister's life and supporting her in this manner, it's huge, man. It really is huge. So this is a really amazing campaign. I'm happy to see that he's getting more information about it out there.
Well, again, one thing that you said that was important is just the big role of like family support when you talk about indicators of like success or successfully managing their symptoms. That's underrated. and people may not really see that direct connection, but it's easy to understand how, and you get this way more than me, but in a environment such as yours or even outpatient, when you have something as simple as somebody not wanting to follow a recommendation or not wanting to be compliant with their medication, the family relationships are invaluable, right? If there's somebody that you can call or somebody that you can text and be like, hey, I need you to intervene on this, or be in the room, or whatever the case may be, or talk to this person. Um, the second thing I'll kind of say, one of the reasons why I think it's a good thing that we have people with celebrity and like large reach involved is because this is one of the more stigmatized or most stigmatized, like, mental health disorders is what they make the movies about, right? When people say you're a psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing people are going to ask you is either, are you working with people that hear voices or got multiple personalities, right? That's what they're going to say. They're going to talk about DID or however they're going to describe it. But I think it's important to kind of talk about hallucinations and delusions, because I think part of the myth is people don't really know how to respond when their family members experience these things, right? Or something like dementia, right? Which is totally different, but would have a lot of similarities in terms of like the loneliness and isolation that the patients will feel, right? And resulting probably depressive symptoms from certain things in their lives being impacted. But the reason why I'm talking about it is, again, I think it's important that people have the information so that they know, if how to approach people when they're going through, certain periods of time, right? It's okay to just ask a person, how can I help you? Right? If a person is talking about audio visual hallucinations, you don't have to see them, you don't have to hear them, to say, well, what is that like for you? Right? How can I help you? Are you safe? How can I make it your environment safer? Right? All those things are non-threatening and not going to escalate a person, right? But they can also validate their experience and let them know that you're there for them, right? So, and be very calming to a person that's experiencing these symptoms that is hard to talk about. So, again, hats off to him. I hope it's a successful, program.
Yeah, a big part of it, in addition to the medication compliance, is involved in their individual therapy. There's also an aspect of the family therapy, which I highly recommend any individual that has schizophrenia, or if you have a family member that has schizophrenia, is being involved in their treatment. So to your point, how to handle those situations. Like, there's a whole treatment modality in regards to just educating the family members on how to support them through the ups and downs of their condition, and understanding that even just with medication, that doesn't always reduce or take away the delusions or the hallucinations. So it's learning hey, how can I support them with this? Also, you're learning more about the condition yourself. Like, the more information you have about what your family member is up against or what they're managing or what they're experiencing, then you're in the best position to be able to support them, right? Like, just like with any other condition, it's like with any family member going to, the endocrinologist and learning more about your family member's diabetes, or you're learning more about their asthma, or you're learning about their cancer, right? The more you know about it and what the episodes and what the highs and lows and all the other different experiences that they're going through, you're in a better position to support them. And literally, like I said, there's a whole treatment manual just for families. There are social supports. I mean, support groups just for families of individuals that have schizophrenia or that have any type of severe mental illness. So, yeah, the fact is also I like is that they're highlighting that schizophrenia is not a death sentence. I think that's also a misinformation that unfortunately has been associated with that community, is that, oh, if someone's diagnosed with schizophrenia, their life is completely over, right? It's just they're going to be trapped in their own world of suffering. And no, you'd be surprised, one, who you may know or in your family or friends or work with that has a diagnosis of schizophrenia. And it's very possible that even with a diagnosis of schizophrenia, if involved in your treatment with medication and therapy, like you can go off to live a very decent quality of life. Like in the individuals that Tay is highlighting, and with this endeavor, they're doing a talent show, they're performers, they're all of the different types of talent. So I like that aspect of that. Yeah, it's not like, oh, this person has schizophrenia. Yes, ship them off to a state hospital or the whatever house and everything. I mean, they're never to be heard again. So I like that aspect also, where they're really focusing on the quality of life that his sister is engaging in, and then also other individuals in that community that they're still very talented, very intelligent individuals. So this is great. I really like this. So shout out. This makes up for Diggs, even though that best man role. You see what I mean? Like he's getting better out there.
Yeah. This definitely improved his reputation out there in the streets. Especially with me. His name was Mud for me for decades, bro. But hey,
Yeah,
man,
so
he
this
played
is pretty cool.
the role too well.
Good, too good, man. He's a semi villain for life.
Yeah, man. You know how
All
that
right,
goes.
now Jay, it's June, man, and we're coming to the end of the school year. So coming to the spring season is also associated with track and field. So Jay, there is a story that has recently been making its rounds on social media and on the news about a high school track runner that unfortunately, due to a celebration, has found herself in a not so desirable break situation. All right, so let me pull this up real quick.
This is an interesting one right here.
Yeah, man. Here we go. Here we go.
Title. The greatest moment of 16-year-old Clara Adams' young career taken away from her because of a celebration. After winning the 400-meter event at the CIF State Championships with a time of 53.24 seconds, her dream of winning a state title went up in flames after celebrating using a fire extinguisher.
When she blew the fire extinguisher, the opponents were gone. That was our moment of celebration, and the CIF officials made that about them. The crowd went crazy. They loved it. The CF booth went crazy. They loved it. But those few guys in those jackets, they took offense to it, didn't like it, and they made a decision based on emotions.
The North Salinas High sophomore grabbed a fire extinguisher from her father and coach and extinguished off her spikes. The CIF deemed her celebration unsportsmanlike, stripping her of her title. It's a celebration made famous by American sprint icon Maurice Green, who enjoyed her paying homage to him and thinks she should get her state title back.
When I heard, because it happened, and then people just started calling me, oh, this girl who just won the 400 redid your celebration. I was like, huh, what? If it was away from everyone and not really interfering with anybody, I would say reinstate her.
One clear infraction was Clara's father hopping the railing onto the track after the race, but says he only did that because of how CIF officials were treating his daughter.
There's a CIF rule saying you can't come over the wall, you can't be on the infield, which is a rule respected. But at this point, I explained before about being a coach and a father wearing the different hats. I saw an official grab my daughter by the arm. They were yelling in her face. When he grabbed her by the arm, I went over the wall at that point. I'm father now. I'm not coach anymore. I'm over the wall.
Now, the true fastest 400-meter runner in the state is back home without a medal. And even if the CIF is to reinstate her as the champion, she never got that moment of being crowned a champion.
Even if everything goes in my favor, in regards to getting my title back, I'll still never get that moment back, standing on the podium as a sophomore. I'll never get that back because they took it from me.
Clara was also disqualified from competing in the 200-meter race because of that celebration. And we did some research, analyzed 20 years of state championships, found 0 other times where someone was disqualified and stripped of a title for unsportsmanlike conduct. We reached out to the CIF, haven't heard anything back. We also put up a poll on our Instagram, Dan.
All right. Okay. All right. First of all, why did they have the fire extinguisher sitting on the table? Did you see that, Jay?
Nah. You mean when she did that with her father?
Yeah,
The interview? I
she
didn't
did
notice.
that with her dad. They had the fire extinguisher sitting on the table in between them. I'm not sure what that was about.
I think they're trying to milk this thing, man. They're trying to get a merch deal or something. You know?
Yeah, right. Get a nice little brand deal with fire extinguisher.
I don't know. Maybe she's gonna be selling fire extinguisher t-shirts or whatever. I don't know. This is crazy though, man. Like,
All right,
because
well,
I was thinking about it, and from the beginning, like it sounds excessive, right? And obviously that's why they're on the news and all of that. And as I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if they have a rule, like if they have an explicit rule about it, then I would understand. You know what I'm saying? Like if they had an explicit rule that all of the athletes were aware about, like, yo, we don't want no celebrating, do it on your own time, then it's kind of like, okay, you knew about it, you broke the rule, you get whatever. But if it wasn't an explicit rule, and this is just kind of ruling that they were making in the moment, then I got an issue with it. You know what I'm saying? But come on, bro. Like we all, and I didn't agree with it at the time, but we remember a time where it's like NFL players knew if they did a celebration in the end zone, you're gonna cost your team. You know what I mean? So I mean, we're seeing it all over the country with all of these people with these graduations. You know what I'm saying? Celebrations going wrong, right? Sometimes there's penalties. I'm not saying it's right, but I just wonder if they have a explicit rule. You know?
Yeah. And that's my similar thought process. I mean, let's call this what it is. One, is it excessive? Yes. Two, is it intentional? Absolutely. Three, if there isn't anything in the CIF rule book, and the reporter kind of alluded to that at the end, where he said he didn't see anything in the rule book or have any issues for the past 20, 30 years or wherever the case may be, of any type of infraction or that a celebration would cause for any type of penalty, then she has grounds to appeal this. My exception that I take with is more with dad, right? So this is my thought process. Dad is the one that gave her, like, after she wins the race, dad runs down and then hands her the fire extinguisher. So it's one thing if she kind of did this on her own, right? Where she was
Right.
just like, yeah, you know what? Like she had the fire extinguisher in her bag or something. But no, dad gives it to her after she wins the race. So obviously this is intentional. This is something that they've talked about. And then, hey, babe,
Yeah.
if you win,
Be
I'm gonna
playing.
hand you a extinguisher. Right. So this is planned. This is premeditated. I take exception for two reasons with dad's involvement in this. One is that I don't know if she is like this huge track and field historian, because they made reference to Maurice Green during the celebration, but that was back in 2004. She's 16 years old. She wasn't even born. So I don't know if this was dad's idea or that she came
Right.
up with it. Either way, I think it's dad's idea, right? Because he's also the coach or something rather. So I think dad came up with this idea. Either way, even if he didn't, right? You as the parent and as coach, you cannot endorse this, right? Like also being a father of a former high school athlete, in no form or fashion am I going to condone like you doing this elaborate celebration. Like, are you going to talk smack? Sure. All right, that's fine. That's part of any type of particular sport. You feeling confident, you want to talk smack to your competitors? Cool. Just make sure you win. Don't do it in a fashion where it's intrusive and anything in their face. But like, I'm not going to get you the prop to do this elaborate celebration, right? I'm just not. Like, you have to. I feel like the lines are blurred in between parenting and coaching and whatever kind of parenting system he has going on with her, because there's no reason in the world that you should be giving her a prop to do this elaborate celebration. You shouldn't be. Like, you have to be the
I mean,
mature one.
listen,
And you know what I mean? Like, for me, like, all right, if you do that, kids are gonna go off and do wild stuff. Cool. Like, I'm not saying don't support her and say she would went off and did this on her own, because you still got to support her. That's your kid. But I'm not gonna give you the equipment to do like these wild celebrations. I can't get behind that.
no, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, she's a kid, you know. I kind of thought that way just by how he was responding to the questions. Like, they responded through emotion. And maybe they did, but it's like, as the coach and as her father, right? He obviously knew that there was penalties for unsportsmanlike, for unsportsmanlike, I don't know what it's called, you know what I mean? But that type of infraction. But the problem is, number one, they did it anyway. And two, maybe he thought they wasn't going to enforce it. You know what I mean? Because he had to know that they might do something. You know what I mean? Maybe he thought there was nothing
Right.
to do about it, but he's the coach. So as the coach, you got to know the rules. You know what I mean? He know that what would happen if she hit somebody upside the head with the baton, like we was talking about before. He knows the rules if she
Right.
outside the lane. So he got to know the rules for celebration, which I'm sure he knows. So I don't know. Maybe it was an issue of it never being enforced before, or maybe he just thought that at the end of the day, the style points was going to win and people was going to be caught up in the moment and not say nothing. But as her father, you're supposed to tell him, do it later on your Instagram.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't do that there. Like, if you get wind of it, like, say it's her idea. Right? Like, all right, I'll take it off of him. Say she comes up with the idea of like, hey, I want to do this, like, because she obviously felt confident enough that they brought the fire extinguisher, right? So she knows that, like, listen, Dad, I'm gonna dust him. I know I'm gonna win this. I'm gonna go whatever, whatever. And yeah, I'm gonna do the fire extinguisher, the show. That's the whole thing. Like you said, you do it either with your friends, but you as the coach and the dad, you can't condone that. Like, you can't be involved in those type of hijinks. That's like the coach. When have we ever seen a coach in football, right? Whether it be college or the pros, when have we ever seen the coach run out there like with the Joe Horn celebration, go off and give him the cell phone, like, here you go, right?
Right.
When did you ever see the coach run over to Cinco and throw the Hall of Fame jacket on him? Like, no, it was like his teammate, right? Or it was him themselves. Like, the coach, you have a certain level of responsibility and maturity where you have to be like, yeah, no, I'm not involved in those type of hijinks. Like, yeah, you want to celebrate? Cool. But yeah, like, nah, it'd have been something again if it was just her or one of her teammates came up there with the extinguisher and did that. I get that, but you, dad and coach, that's you have to be the one with the leadership and to be like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do this.
Yeah, dad has to eat that one.
So
Unfortunately, though,
yeah, they could. You're enabling that aspect at that point, right? Like, you kind of lost your way as the authority figure, kind of going in with that. Like, you're more, for me, I see you more as the peer if you're handing her the fire extinguisher as opposed to like being the adult in the room. And the wild part, I'll say this though, I think she's only a sophomore.
yeah.
So, like, and what I also saw was that I didn't see any contrition with her, right? Like, yeah, it's unfortunate that they stripped you of this, but I didn't see at some point anywhere like, hey, any type of accountability, right? That's what I didn't see from either one of them. Of,
She's
yeah,
following
you
her
know what?
father's lead.
Maybe we took it. Yeah, like, maybe I took it too far. I shouldn't have did it, and I apologize. It won't happen again. Like, I'm not saying you gotta like go to come to them with your tail between your legs, because again, I do think she should appeal, especially if there's nothing in the rule book. But showing some type of accountability or contrition of like, hey, yeah, probably what I did. I wasn't thinking. I took it too far. It won't happen again. So on and so forth. Um, like, again, it's the responsibility part, but I will say this, but she's only a sophomore and she's dusting folks like that. Like, I don't know, she might come back with a chip on her shoulder for the next 2 years. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the last time we hear her name. You know, might not be.
Yeah, but we'll see. But yeah, no, dad, coaching dad's got to do a better job this one.
Definitely.
Anything else before we get out of here, Jeff?
Nah, bro. Just of course, we want to thank everybody that's riding with us, and hope everybody having a good summer, and we're gonna keep the content coming. That's all.
Yes, sir. Oh, speaking of what's coming up, Father's Day is coming up. You doing anything for the original Dr. Coleman and any any other family members? Y'all doing anything on Sunday?
Yeah, but I didn't honestly, man. It's early in the week. I ain't get Thursday. I'll have something set up, but right now, not yet. Father's Day. You could always get reservations, man. Ain't nobody. Father's Day is last minute.
Yeah, see, that's what we need to talk about. That's what we need
Oh
to
yeah,
talk about. See,
right.
because we have become a marginalized population, brother. We have become a marginalized population where we don't get the same energy that moms get. I'm not
You
hating on
already
moms. I'm
know,
not
man.
saying anything disparaging about moms. I'm just saying though, we deserve a little bit more energy, a little bit
You're
more
right,
planning.
man.
That's all I'm saying.
You're
Throwing
right,
it
man. I'm
out
gonna
there.
tell you in advance. Happy Father's Day, my brother. I'm gonna tell you in advance.
Appreciate that, brother. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we need. We need more of that.
You already.
All right, man. Listen, happy Father's Day to the original Dr. Coleman and the other Dr. Colemans in your family. Hope y'all have a wonderful weekend, and happy Father's Day to all of our lovely viewers. Also, again, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Continue and check in with the males in your life to see how they're doing. Encourage them also to continue to get checkups. Mental health checkups is just as important as your physical checkup. So, other than that, Jay, until next time, good brother.
All right, bro. You already know, man. I'll talk to you soon, man. You already. Later.
All right.